Thank you very much indeed for staying with us on News Night. Now, a RISE course political editor, Sambo, and a RISE analyst, Frank Tietie, now join us to help us make sense of all the confusion coming out of Adamawa supplementary election. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us.
Thank you.
Now, we've seen the drama in Adamawa, and it's surprising how it's turning out. When the election was declared inconclusive, there were hopes that the supplementary election will come as a succor and a determining factor. Now this debacle, where does this put the people of Adamawa?
Well, I think you're starting with me.
Yes, okay, yes. Let's start with Sambo.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very controversial election, and we've seen some acts of subversion here, and it's something that the will of the people is about to be subverted by some subterranean forces in Adamawa, with the resident electoral commissioner Hudu Ari lending himself to support such divisive elements. This is a very sad commentary on what is happening to our democracy, and to think that a resident electoral commissioner who knows the rule based on the Electoral Act, and then of course what the Constitution says, will go ahead to put himself in the storm. I mean, the security agencies should not waste time to just ensure that he's taken before the law court, and of course the law takes its course, because this reminds me of a woman who is known as Ayoka Adebayo, who used to be the resident electoral commissioner of Ekiti State during a governorship rerun in 2009 too. She was the resident electoral commissioner. Now, unlike this one where you have state collation officers declaring election results, by then we used to have resident electoral commissioners performing this function, and it was because of this that we had this challenge. Now, the rec then, Ayoka Adebayo, suddenly just said she wasn't going to be announcing the results any longer, and she disappeared into hiding. And eventually, when she came out, she was asked, what exactly made you to disappear without announcing the results that you were meant to have announced? And she said that her Christian conscience would not allow her to announce the result because she was under pressure from certain quarters. And then you know that we had all sorts of things happening with our electoral system. And it's because of that, over the years, we've modified the electoral system to allow for state collation officers who are not members of INEC to be doing that. Now, this state collation officer for Adamawa, Professor Mohammed Mele, was nowhere to be found at the collation ground. They had adjourned and said by 11 a.m. they will meet today. So where did the resident electoral commissioner, who do I get the powers to go to the collation center before 11 a.m. and declare Aisha Binani of the APC as winner, and then on a written paper with her figures? And then why were the policemen seated there and looking at him? Why didn't the policemen arrest him? Our institutions are being abused, and the APC itself should be ashamed of what happened, that its governorship candidate went on air to accept results that they know did not comply with the provisions of the Electoral Act, and then the person who went on air to accept the congratulatory message and put out that congratulatory message is a member of the Nigerian Senate, and who was involved in crafting this Electoral Act. Senator Aisha Binani should be ashamed of herself for subverting the laws of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and the APC and some of its people, including people like Festus Keyamo, who were already putting this out there without following the due process. Festus Keyamo himself knows that a resident electoral commissioner doesn't have the powers to announce results. So at what point did APC and their leadership and members go ahead to decide to celebrate a victory that we all know did not follow the rule book? The PDP had been complaining about this resident electoral commissioner after he was heard in an audio tape during the controversial Fofore local government results, instructing in Hausa language one of the electoral officials to subvert the results. This is shameful, and we shouldn't be going back to the days of Ayoka Adebayo, who had to be declared wanted by the Inspector General of Police then, Michael Kiro, before she came out of hiding with a lawyer, and then she had to be forced to go and conclude it. Now we are asking, where is Professor Mohammed Mele, who is supposed to have been the state collation officer? INEC should provide him and let this election be concluded, because the more it's being shifted, we do not know why this governorship supplementary rerun should not election should not be concluded. He should come out of hiding, conclude the election, and then the law should take its course.
The law should take its course, and of course, Somla, you know, you've raised more questions, and Nigerians equally are raising questions. And Barrister Frank Tietie, let me bring you in, and of course, I've got a question for you. Looking at, you know, the legal perspective of this, yes, the legality of the reg declaring a winner is being questioned right now, and INEC has suspended it. But of course, there was a declaration at the end of the day. So the question for now is, yes, they've been summoned to Abuja. Do you think that declaration will still stand? And the meeting, you know, expected to hold in Abuja, what are your expectations really from INEC with regards to, you know, the polls in Adamawa State?
Oh, well, thank you. I think there is only one institution that is embarrassed now. Nigerians are not embarrassed. Nigerians are simply reaping the harvest of the new syndrome. Go to court, go to court. So the said resident electoral commissioner was simply testing the waters, because the idea is that do all sort of things to just announce a winner, be declared as or returned as the winner of an election, and then let the other persons go to court. So we are reaping the harvest of lawlessness that we've sown, particularly with regards to our electoral process. So the resident electoral commissioner probably stretched his luck too far. He was emboldened being under certain influence. If he didn't take drugs, or if he wasn't under any psychedelic drugs, then somehow his pocket must have been seriously influenced, and then he lost his senses and forgot that he's simply a resident electoral commissioner that didn't have the powers to do that, but he threw caution to the wind. I must tell you the truth that there is a lot of conspiracy going on in this Adamawa debacle, and nobody should be spared, including the returning officer. There is a reason why in this progressive new electoral act, the returning officer is appointed especially for the purpose of returning a winner, declaring a winner. A resident electoral commissioner simply is sent to the state for the purpose of managing the elections, preparing, ensuring that the papers are there and the logistics are in place. However, in course of doing that, he familiarizes himself with the people of the state, with the politicians there who are capable of bribing him, which is clearly evident in this case that the man was seriously under an influence. It didn't even matter whether he was going through a very holy month, yet he threw caution to the wind. And then a returning officer is also supposed to be a man of integrity like the resident electoral commissioner. Now, who recommended this sort of fellow to be a resident electoral commissioner of INEC? And didn't INEC see this coming? So it is INEC that is failing, because under the principle of vicarious liability, INEC is failing seriously. It is, it's becoming irresponsible to Nigerians, and this is unfortunate. So, well, INEC does have the power to make the declaration that has been made as we speak. There is no return yet. Whatever return that has been made by the said resident electoral commissioner, it's criminal, and the man ought to have been arrested. But if you watch some of the videos that came out with the law enforcement agents, the police, and I believe the Department of State Services also present at that time, they were very relaxed. There seemed to be a sort of conspiracy of illegality. And like I said in the beginning, this is just a harvest of reaping lawlessness, because the idea is that go there, declare it, let the other party that has lost or whatever go to court, and let's see what comes out of it. But imagine the embarrassment. I couldn't even withstand it, because he found out that he cannot defend such a thing. But when people see such kind of, lawlessness, impunity going on, and nothing happens, as we have experienced in several other elections across the state, even in the presidential election, probably, the man would say, look, let's do it in Adamawa, and let's see, nothing will happen, as we usually say. And that's what we're witnessing. We are not embarrassed. We saw it coming. We are not surprised. It is INEC that should be embarrassed. Those who run INEC and those who recommended these sort of fellows to embarrass themselves.
Okay, Frank Tietie, thank you very much for that. But you still haven't nailed the question. Does this pronouncement stand? Do you think this pronouncement will stand?
How can it stand? What can such an illegality stand? Why should it even be contemplated? We are talking about persons who ought to be arrested immediately while they were making such blunderous announcement. They were not arrested. We are talking about, and then what you get is from INEC inviting them to be cautioned. What kind of thing is that? It's INEC. INEC keeps embarrassing itself. INEC keeps letting the Nigerian people down. Look at what is happening in Adamawa now. It's just a reflection of a culture. Of a culture of lawlessness. People who know the right thing to do, but under the influence, clearly under the influence of one form of gratification or the other, and then they do the opposite thing, and then they tell the losing party to go to court. And this is just too embarrassing for INEC. That's the reason why it's making that statement. INEC is simply an embarrassment to itself. Under the principle of vicarious liability, for the purpose of emphasis, INEC is the one that is responsible. It cannot stand, definitely cannot stand. It contradicts Section 25 of the Electoral Act. It contradicts Section 60 of the Electoral Act. And Section 152 of the Electoral Act clearly delimits the functions of these persons, whether a returning officer, a presiding officer, or a resident electoral commissioner. And we see a resident electoral commissioner who deliberately, decidedly went and to subvert the electoral process, and then he's been invited to Abuja when he ought to have been arrested and put in handcuffs for trying to defeat Nigeria's democracy. That didn't happen because this is the culture INEC has established. INEC is criminal here.
INEC is criminal here. Those are the words of Frank Tietie. Sambo, let me bring the conversation back to you. What we do know as at this moment, only 10 out of the 20 local government results have so far been declared before this resident electoral commissioner went ahead to declare a winner. Yes, they've been invited to come to Abuja. How soon do you think this entire process should be concluded? Looking at INEC now, how soon should they be looking to clear this with regards to Adamawa State, especially to avoid the breakdown of law and order, seeing how tensed, the entire situation is?
Well, the collation should actually resume as soon as yesterday. I mean, because the entire state is tensed at the moment. The remaining 10 local governments ought to have been delivered by now. The collation should continue tomorrow, if you ask me. Once they come to Abuja and they see whatever they are able to, even if it means using the Air Force to actually get them back to Yola to go and conclude that collation, it must be done. The question here is, where was the state collation officer, Professor Mohammed Mele? Where was he? Why wasn't he present at the collation center at 11 a.m. that he had told journalists to catch up with him there? And on whose behalf was Yunusa Ari working? And this is so saddening that Yunusa Ari is a lawyer. He's actually a lawyer. When his name was sent to the Senate for confirmation as one of the resident electoral commissions last year, I got to know that he's a member of the National Institute. That's the elite policy think tank in the country. And so for a member of the National Institute, a legal practitioner who has been nominated by Mr. President to be the eyes of Nigerians in the electoral body, INEC, and he was posted to Adamawa, and this is what we have from somebody like that. This is to tell you how unpatriotic some Nigerians can be. And like Frank Tietie said, we don't have the luxury of having him to come down to Abuja. The job of making a declaration for that election is not that of the INEC national chairman, not that of the resident electoral commissioner. It is that of the state collation officer. And there's no reason why the state collation officer should not have remained in Adamawa to continue with the collation while the security agencies are doing whatever they need to do with this resident electoral commissioner. Because bringing him to Abuja, what does this solve? Does he amend the Electoral Act? The Electoral Act is clear. It's only the state collation officer that can declare that result. Even if you take INEC chairman to that state, he can't make that declaration. And that's why I told you the issue of Ayoka Adebayo in 2009. Until that woman had to be taken back to Ekiti to make that declaration, even when she went underground, the Inspector General of Police had to declare her because nobody else could do that declaration except her. The results are there. Professor Mohamed Mele must be given the necessary security to go back to that state, just like it happened in Abia with the Obingwa results, and for the declaration to be made so that there will be peace. If there's a breakdown of law and order in that state, and there's chaos, do you know what it can be? And you know that one of the presidential candidates is from that state, Atiku Abubakar, and then you know how tense and volatile the Northeast is. Are we not contributing to the insecurity of the country? INEC should ensure that that declaration does not go beyond Monday.
Okay, thank you very much, Sambo. Let's get back to you, Frank Tietie. Now, let's talk about Professor Mohamed Mele, because Sambo just said he should be given the necessary security to go back to that state and do his job, finish his job. And now you also have pointed an accusing finger to the resident electoral commissioner. Are you suspecting that Professor Mele might be complicit in all this?
Yes, indeed, of course, because it is presumptuous that he had all the security, all the necessary security for him to do the job. INEC must have provided all of that for him. For suddenly running away amounts to dereliction of duty. He should actually be punished. He should be arrested, prosecuted, and adequately punished. You don't fail Nigerian like that, a professor for that matter. All of these people don't understand what responsibility is. There are several persons across who can do that job, and they picked you to say, come and be the returning officer. You are well paid, given everything necessary, and you accepted. In fact, that nothing should prevent you. At the cost of your life, you should be able to stand up for the honor of whatever you have taken an oath for. An oath was administered to these fellows. They took an oath to the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and then he's running away. The man should be held responsible. Now, I can tell you that there was a well-scripted plan for whatever has happened now. Let Mele run away, and then rest the election, because he knows he cannot do whatever he has been asked to do. And then the other fellow, who also knew that he didn't have the authority, would not make the announcement. Let's set the whole place in confusion, and then so long as there is a declaration, and then let whatever happens, whatever be, they've done their own part of the deal. Now, whatever it is, Mele may have the opportunity to save his face, but the presumption is that he is complicit, because there is no reason why he didn't run if his life was threatened, or if he was suffering from any form of undue influence, he should have run to one place or the other for refuge. He should have complained to the security agencies, to the commissioner of police or whoever, or the INEC headquarters itself. He didn't do that, and suddenly he's nowhere to be found. The man, look, we are getting tired of this. When we keep talking about impunity, this is the result. If certain persons have been punished, and God bless my brother Mike Igidi, as resident electoral commissioner in the various states where he had been, whether it is Imo, Edo, and then ultimately Akwa Ibom before he left, this kind of thing will not come out. He has seen to professors who decided to compromise elections, persons who were supposed to be respected for their integrity, who sold out their conscience. He saw to it that they were punished. They were taken before the law. And so, because we see this liberal approach, which INEC, operates by inviting these persons, why? INEC should be enraged with what has happened, but it won't, because it is also complicit in the way and manner it does not uphold these standards. This is becoming too embarrassing for it. That's why we're getting this kind of statement. However, it should not just be, as my respected friend Sambo has said, that something should happen quickly on Monday. No, an investigation should commence immediately against the resident electoral commissioner, against that returning officer, and against the whole process. Those security men who should have raised alarm, who were seated there ensconced with some kind of peace, should also be investigated. This embarrassment is actually too much to take.
Absolutely. Well, Frank Tietie says, you know what, an investigation should be carried out, and I do know that INEC will do that.
I really support that, even if it means declaring Professor Mohamed Mele wanted. Like I gave that example of Ayoka Adebayo. She was declared wanted by the Inspector General of Police then, Michael Kiro, and she had to come out of hiding after she had said that her Christian mind will not allow her to announce the results that she was meant to have announced because she was under pressure. Pressure from who? So if he's under pressure, let's know from who. And wherever he is, he should come out of hiding. Going to INEC office will not help, because the state is currently under tension.
Absolutely.
And the political party should learn
and
from
for
this.
The sanctity.
The All Progressives Congress being the leading party in the country, the one that has the president-elect to form the next government, they have to show good example by not allowing all these anti-democratic forces to subvert our democracy.
The sanctity of the process has to be protected as well in all of this. Gentlemen, Sambo, Arise political editor as well as director of news, and Barrister Frank Tietie, Arise news analyst and human rights lawyer. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you, gentlemen.